Okay, so nobody's getting the truth from the mainstream media, folks. It's well past time to open your eyes, ears, and your mind to your own research, because something isn't right here. And if you can't see that, you are not paying attention, folks.
It's the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. Now that's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
The important message that we need Australians to get vaccinated as quickly as possible. In line with that, I do encourage all Australians to please go and book your vaccinations as soon as you can if you haven't already done so.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Okay, we need to stand up against this tyranny, folks. Stop giving away your freedoms and liberties, because the more you give up, the more these people will take until you have absolutely nothing left. That's their agenda.
All right, good evening, viewers. It's a nostalgic night. After 3 months, we are back on David Graham and Stop the Rot, Sack the Lot, the original pages. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. So, yeah, share it around for me. These pages are again live. I just found out this afternoon that they are on. So, yeah, it's also my son's birthday today, so I was able to actually put a post up, which I haven't been able to do for 3 months to anybody. So for everyone's birthdays and everyone I've missed out on for 3 months on these original channels, sorry, but yeah, hi everyone, how yous going? Hope yous have followed me over to the other channels we've been running. I don't think that Guru, the Aussie Insider, is going to come back. They've got that one absolutely canned on me until I give them some photo ID or something. And yeah, not willing to do that with Facebook. So I think that, 5,000 or whatever obviously are over there is just going to go bang into the air. But we've got this back, and there's a few people on these channels, so we can start sharing it out and getting us back out there, guys. Where we were before was incredible. So, and yeah, we're dropping a lot of good news. So we got a very interesting gentleman coming in tonight. I'll bring Kazza in now. For anyone that hasn't followed us over, Kaz has been with us since well, a while now, a few months, Kaz. Oh, I don't even know, mate. Well, yeah, just met up in Canberra after Epic, and yeah, here we are. We've been doing live streams on the other channels that I've had going, and yeah, but I'm pretty excited about being back on these channels, Kaz. This is unreal. Finally back.
Yeah, I'm not.
How long? Yeah, for how long am I going to be here? That's the thing. So I'm going to try and keep it cool, all right? We're going to have to watch, like, what we're saying a little bit, and I reckon, yeah, things to do with that thing that maybe just took off us a little while ago, like 2 weekends ago, might be a bit of taboo at the moment. So we'll just be careful about how we speak and try and keep us on there. But tonight we've got a gentleman that I've met up on the grounds of Parliament House. He's been all around our freedom fighter movement, all right, following around and participating. That's a hard word for me to get at the moment. And yeah, his name's Fahad Mian, and he's I found him a very, very knowledgeable man. I was very interested in the conversation that we had up there. As you know, I talked to it's been thousands of people. Okay, so I've had a lot of things run past me and that, and I actually said to Fahad the day I spoke to him, mate, you're going to have to come on a live stream. So how the universe works is this morning he rang me up. Kaz, I had someone for tonight, and they had to move to tomorrow night, and Fahad rings up and he moves into tonight. So without chasing him around or doing anything, good evening, Fahad, and you're going to tell us a little bit about some language and that's been going on for a little while and what you've been studying and different things you've written on, and one of them concerns me. But we'll let you have the floor and introduce yourself and what you do and where you're from and what's going on.
Thanks, Dave and Kaz. Good to see you there. Good to see everyone, whoever's watching. So I've been studying. Well, I wouldn't say studying, but I would say analyzing and interacting with language and sort of looking into it quite a bit and sort of trying to find patterns over the last decade or so. So a lot of the problems that we're seeing occur over the last 2 years with the whole pandemic, for me, that I kind of expected something to happen for about the decade prior to that. So I sort of saw it all building up to a certain point, and basically what I've been doing is analyzing the argumentative structure of general day-to-day discussion in the mainstream. So it could be just people like us talking, or it could be the mainstream media news outlets, or it could be articles, things like that. And this over a period of several years, there was a commonality, something common to everything that I noticed in terms of the problem, or one major problem. And as we all, I got my cat here, by the way, it's Montana.
That's cool.
As we know, like the way language is used, it can be used in a very detrimental, or a very bad way, and it has been used that way through propaganda for a long time. And the method that I see uses the same landscape as propaganda, but it flips everything upside down on its head. So how we sort of crossed paths was I saw you giving a speech at one of the morning speeches that you were giving at the freedom camps in Canberra, and I wasn't sure who you were. I was just listening. I don't sort of believe everyone on face value. I'm always skeptical. And several months after that, I saw online. I saw that you were close with Ricardo Bossi as well, which is interesting. And even he says, don't trust me. Go out there, do your own research, and look at the what does he say? The balance of probabilities, right? I've never heard anyone say that before, but it's totally spot on. The balance of probabilities, and that's essentially what I've been doing with language, looking at the balance of probabilities with the way people argue, and the core, trying to whittle it down to something really simple, so that we can apply a solution to that really simple thing. When I saw there was a hit piece on you like a few months ago, I was like, okay, if someone's gonna have a real go at this, I want to know. Like I want to know, what the information out there is. And as soon as I started watching that video, it was like there were just problems with it straight away. So I made my own sort of critical analysis breakdown of that, and then opened up a Facebook account again and tried sharing that with you guys, so you'd be more aware. So that was on my YouTube channel, Prime Philosophy. If anyone wants to look it up, there might be a link here or there as well. You seem to take interest, with that critical breakdown that I did. And then we met up again a few weeks later at the Sack Them All rally in Sydney not long ago. And I was I was sharing this idea that I've got about the freedom community coming together to create our own dictionary. So essentially, we correct the language that has been part of the problem for a very long time, and it's certainly, you know.
Fahad, can I just ask, what do you, could you outline a particular problem? Like, is it when people say good morning, and morning's actually in a morning term, like so
awake,
it's
awake.
What the main core problems that I noticed was that people seemed to have a hard time distinguishing the difference between objective and subjective concepts in language and cognition. So just to sort of describe that in a really basic way, when people don't know whether they're talking about an opinion or a fact, right? Yeah. Or when people don't know whether they're interpreting someone's words a certain way or whether that person actually said that thing, right? So there seems to be a lot of underlying issue there where people can't seem to tell the difference between those two things. And in the world of, I guess, ideologies and philosophy, that correlates very strongly with something called postmodernism and demoralization. So it's this idea of what we traditionally think of as being real. Well, it's not real anymore, and anything goes. It kind of opens up that realm, and when people start thinking like that, and they don't realize it, then all sorts of problems start to occur. So, people will assume a lot, and they'll assume that the people that they're passing information on to will assume certain things and be able to read between the lines. For example, we can use the example of wearing masks, right? So the whole mask mandate thing, they say that it's mandatory, and in a lot of notices that go up, it says you have to wear a mask, but then there's an exemption for it too. So you can't, like, how can you have a mandate and everyone wearing a mask if there's an exemption to it, right? But in a lot of those notices,
for a start, if you're looking at language, a mandate is only an offer. You know what I mean? So everyone, has a choice to refuse that mandate, because now, is this the type of language you're looking at correcting? And yeah?
Well, I'm going to start real basic. I want to start real basic. So, but I'm looking at correcting every single word in the dictionary, right? Every single word in the dictionary.
So
and
the Webster's dictionary?
Every single dictionary.
Okay.
Every single dictionary. And it sounds like a really difficult, complicated thing to do, but there's a way to do it that's really, really easy. It's really easy, like even children can do it, right? So it starts, the first thing that we do is that we redefine the definition of the word definition so it has more definition in it, right? Because if you go in a dictionary and you look at the entries in a dictionary, it says this is the definition of a particular word. But that definition often doesn't comply with that dictionary's own definition of the word definition. So when I say that we should redefine the definition of the word definition so it has more definition, what I'm trying to say is that a definition in a dictionary should be precise, concise, clear, and it should avoid confusion. And if it doesn't tick those boxes, then we shouldn't call it a definition in the dictionary.
Okay, so this has been manipulated by our enemy throughout a period of time, and they have manipulated our language and our dictionary and everything else. We use two different dictionaries. They use their lawful stuff, their legalese, and we've got the Webster's out here that we got to contend with, and the two don't match up. And I hear exactly what you're saying. We should have one conformed, especially with the English language, one conformative like dictionary where words mean exactly what they're meant to mean. Yeah.
Well, we should go through the process of talking to one another about what the words mean and come to some sort of agreement about what we expected the word to mean, what we think it should mean, and once we can get our heads around it, and the simple test is, does it make sense to a child? Because children are meant to be going out there using dictionaries to make sense of the language that they use. And you can go to the definition of the word definition in, for example, Merriam-Webster's dictionary and vocabulary.com. You look at the definition of the word definition, and it doesn't make sense, right? So they're not applying a very good definition of the word definition. And I don't know if that's been manipulated, but there's a whole bunch of other words that have been manipulated. I just used, in the process of trying to figure this out, whether it would actually work or not, I tried using a really simple example that a child would be able to get their head around, and that's just the word park, right? P-A-R-K. So you look up the definition of the word park in Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it's got 2 or 3 different definitions, which all sound kind of similar. So you should be able to summarize them. That should be pretty easy for a child to do, go through the process. A child that knows, how to read, essentially, as an exercise, they should be able to summarize. But then there's another definition in there, in Merriam-Webster, for the word park, which says that a park is a place where military vehicles, equipment, and animals can be stored. Right? And to me, that just blew my mind. It's like, hold on, no. Who thinks that park means that? Like, I don't know a single person that thinks that park means that. So, if we're analyzing a dictionary and we want to correct it, then even a child, I think, should be able to take that definition and be like, hey, mom, dad, that doesn't make sense. Like a park shouldn't be a place where military vehicles can be kept. We shouldn't be defining it like that.
Certainly doesn't make sense to me.
Or something.
Is that an Australian dictionary?
Right.
What are you talking about there? I'm not the best scholar in the world. Okay, I'm a layman.
We don't even have to be scholars, and I think that's part of the illusion that we fall under, that we expect to have to be scholars for something to make sense in the dictionary, and we look at the dictionaries that are out there, the various ones, and we think of them as a source of authority that should tell us what the meaning of a word is, and how to think and how to behave and everything like that. So by bringing the community together to work together on correcting these words and creating our own dictionary, we basically exercise our own power and authority to correct the problems that have created the issue that we're not created, but they've been an instrumental part in the issue that we're facing right now, where everyone's just confused and divided, and we can't seem to get on the same page with stuff. And that's mostly because we assume things. We assume that we know the meaning of a word. Even like you can look up the word transgender or even gender, and there's so much confusion about that word. The correction to it should really be quite simple. And it is quite simple. It's just that people assume that when they use the word, that the other person they're saying it to knows what they're talking about, but the other person may have a different idea of what gender is. So it's about us coming onto the same page. And if you redefine, if you just become strict with the word definition and what you classify as a definition. Now, I know that there's going to be a lot of words that are really subjective, or they can have a lot of different meanings, and you need to apply context to those words to know what a person is saying. So in that kind of situation, we don't change or correct the definition of that word apart from not calling it definition anymore, right? So
okay, I see your objective in what you're trying to, because we have been confused, and we're confused in what things mean, and it gets used against us, okay, in this corporation world that we live in, okay, and we walk into their places, they've got a totally different language. But how would you actually, where would you go? Someone like yourself, okay, has gone and studied this for a while, you know what I mean, and seen what they've done, and we, as we awaken up and we start to go down different rabbit holes, we learn about this grammar, okay, and this artificial bullshit that they've got. The whole world is fake, really, if you want to look into it and take a bit of time to research it. Everything's fake, okay, everything. So how would you go and where would you start to actually, like lobby a dictionary? How would you make these changes? This would have to be something that's coming in better times. It would be implemented into our school system so it could be brought in whilst it's being changed here. It can be developed and taught as a structure, to get grammar in that forward in the right process. So how are you going to go about that? This is a really big process, man, of changing a dictionary.
Well, it's about creating. It is a big process. The more people and the more minds that are on it, i.e. the community, the quicker it gets done. And the process of going through it is actually the most beneficial part of it. So the way that we do it is that we create a website forum where everyone can go to and put in their own suggestions about how to correct a particular entry in a particular dictionary, right? So if I use and I've already registered newstandarddictionary.com. So if you go there, there's a whole bunch of information on there. I need website developers to help me make a forum where we can, make it all secure so we can do this. But the general idea is it's kind of like Wikipedia, but turned inside out. So instead of like when you go to Wikipedia and it tells you what the meaning of something is, right? Buried underneath all that are all the corrections that people made to get to that point. And they tell you this is the source. And as long as they have a source, then they assume that it's true or they assume that it's accurate. But we flip the whole thing on its head and we put that discussion about the changes we want to make front and center. And we criticize the sources, we criticize the dictionaries themselves and say, we exercise our own ability to think and our own authority to make these changes.
And this is happening now because, there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there that are actually getting these things together, these little places and that together where, where we are going to want to, well, hopefully just get our grammar. I can see exactly what you're saying, but this has also been implemented by our, our adversary, these evil bastards that have just changed everything they want to change to make it suit themselves. So, Kazza, I can see your mind ticking over. What are you about to say?
Yeah, no, I think it's actually a really good idea. It's something that like just going back through history, during the Japanese occupation of Korea in the 1940s, the Koreans secretly worked on their own dictionary. And the reason why they did that is, and they went out to all of the outlining areas and got all the words, and the words became really, really precious. The reason for that is because the Japanese occupation had actually stopped teaching Korean in the schools and the children were only taught Japanese. So the forefathers of Korea actually found it, so they realized they had the revelation of the importance of keeping the language. They laid their lives down. I think just about all of them died, and they hid this dictionary so well that it was found many years later, and then they published it. But they went to outlying areas and found the correct definition and brought it back, and then they argued over it and they debated and they really structured it in such a way that it could not be confused. And the reason why the Koreans still have their language today, so after the Japanese had basically lost the war and departed, they were able to bring about a revival of their own language, which was really, really important. Now, the other thing that I've got to say on that is that one of the things that I know from teaching is that the command of the English language, your ability to command the English language and grammar directly correlates to your ability to create wealth. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt. If you go and test all your high-level CEOs and things like that, it's because, and you will find that they have a really high level of literacy. So there's a correlation. So it has been concerning me as a teacher for some time that our children have been losing their ability to be able to communicate, for starters, but also their ability to be able to communicate on paper, because it determines their ability to create wealth in the future.
You're absolutely right, Kaz, and this is what we didn't have, several decades ago, was this internet where we can all communicate. And while the internet and the platforms that we use are being used for propaganda and misinformation, disinformation, we can use the same platforms to run everything in reverse and use it to our own advantage, and basically start exercising a process of change that benefits the community, that benefits us by the community actually engaging in it. One of the ways that we can also make this kind of thing official is through the common law assemblies that are popping up all around Australia. So the common law assemblies are essentially assemblies that serve the community. So if the community is being hard done by the decisions that their local council or that the government or someone like that makes, then they can go to the common law assemblies and say, hey, look, we as living men and women are having this problem, and then there are common law court processes. It's all formal, but it's all really simple, and it all makes sense once you break it all down. They've got their own system where the truth and the real authority over us, which is the only point of authority over each and every one of us, is our Creator. And some people take that as God, some people take that as your parents, some people take that as just your Creator, as in the person who created your birth certificate, right? So that can get into a whole another spectrum of discussion there.
We go down the birth certificate route all the time. Yeah. So our people are well educated on the birth and the birth, the water.
Straw man, the fictitious entities, the SEC.
Yeah, we cover that off.
So we can go out there and we can say that we don't accept the police being an authority over us, or we don't accept the government being an authority over us, and we can all try and exercise that resistance in a number of different ways. But for us to look at language and the scholars that have made the various current dictionaries and the ones who keep on changing them, we can quite easily look at them and say, hey, I don't want to see them as an authority. I want to criticize them and exercise my own power to make change. And to create our own dictionary gives us the ability to create authority from within ourselves. So it's about self-empowerment as well. And you can be part of whatever freedom movement you want to be part of. You can be sitting on the toilet and you can think about the meaning of words, and you can be contributing to this dictionary. And then you can go on later and you can submit whatever your thoughts were onto this website forum.
So I could actually define the word crap and then send it into you.
Yeah. So what I'm imagining here, yeah. Look, someone said to me, "Oh, what if everyone just changes the meaning of a word to crap?" And it's like, okay, all right. Look, everyone's going to have to agree to it first of all. Yeah. So and it's going to have to make sense, and it's going to have a logical, rational, rational, reasonable meaning to it, right? Otherwise, people just won't agree to it. Otherwise, you get confusion. So, what I don't think this has ever been done before, but what I think we should be able to do is have this made official with the common law assemblies. When I say assemblies, I mean multiple common law assemblies around the country, or any English-speaking language, and say, hey, do you agree that we should start a new dictionary and begin with having a strict definition of the word definition, and this is the definition of the word definition, and every entry we put in the dictionary has to comply with this definition of the word definition.
I totally agree with you, and I think that there's people out there, as we move into, what we're moving into after we get out of this mess, that these evil pricks have put us into, that these are the things that will be put into place. And yeah, I think you're onto a really good thing here. And I think this is something that does need to be done in the future to actually, eliminate argument, really. Because
Absolutely.
if the definition of the word means this and it can only mean this, well, there can't be much argument about what the definition of the word is. And
that's right. Yeah,
and I think you're right. Yeah. So look, I think it's a really good idea. Again, you know what? Do you start something like this in Australia? Do you? And you kick it off under a Terra Australis dictionary, and then from here you try and progress that out into the English language throughout the world. How do you actually go about doing something like this?
Well,
okay, you've got all groups in that, I understand, but where's your target to hit to start the build, and get the snowball?
Well, I was looking at homeschool communities. So we develop a set of exercises just based on logic and reasoning and rationale, things that are so closely aligned with the truth that if anyone argues against it, then they could be, they might as well be saying, truth is lies or truth is fiction. Yeah. For example, just the basic idea that the definition of the word definition should have good definition to it when you're putting it in a dictionary. You can't argue against that.
Well, I know plenty of people are going to argue. They're called the elites, okay? And this is what they've done to our dictionary over a very long time. People, over a very long time, all right? We've had a dictionary. They've had their own dictionary that they use in court of law, okay? And they probably haven't, I haven't looked into the history of that. Maybe you could answer this question. Have they modified their dictionary? Because they probably haven't had to. Their dictionary's probably stayed on a level playing like this, whereas our dictionary has been manipulated to make sure that it doesn't, or it contradicts what they use here, and that's what I see when we go into law and we go into courts and we do things like this definition of how everything's different. So they've done that over a long period of time. They've just changed it to suit their own narrative. So yeah, pulling it all back and just
that's definitely a big part of it. If you go into
Oh, we lost him.
Yeah,
and we've let them do it. We've let them do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so this is an opportunity for us to, turn the tables on the entire thing, and be like, no, we have control over what we say. We have control over our language, and by bringing the community together. Am I back?
Yeah, you keep cutting out there.
Yeah, you drop it in and out a little bit. But so where can people find you in case you do drop out? Let's just get that out now, Fahad. If people wanted to find you and wanted to, look, because there's obviously people out here who are interested by, everyone has different interests and hobbies, So there's going to be, what would you call them, linguists out there? Is that the right word? Linguists out there would probably like to look into your theory of language and what you're doing, yeah?
So if you go to newstandarddictionary.com, there's a lot of information on there, and there's some links to Telegram and my YouTube channels that are down there as well. On YouTube, you can look up Prime Philosophy, and I've got like a 1 hour, 10-minute video where I explain everything about this in detail, and it's all in chapters as well. So if you don't want to watch an hour 10, you can just watch 10 or 15 minutes of a detailed explanation of it as well. I've got the steps all laid down, and the common law assemblies will be very important in making each word official as the community, for the most part, starts agreeing with and upvoting the suggestions for certain words. The common law assemblies can make those words official and credit the children and the members of the community that contributed to that suggestion. So the children themselves, for the first time in history, will take part in creating a new dictionary that's more correct than all the scholars that came before them, or the scholars that directly came before them anyway. I can't talk about the Latin dictionary, for example, but the dictionaries that are out there right now are they're a minefield of confusion. And we're at a point now where not only can we, but we need to fix that, and we can all do that from within us. So newstandarddictionary.com, you can register your interest there. I'm looking for web developers that can help me make a stable forum, and homeschool educators and linguists or vocabulary educators who can test it and say, hey, no, this is a problem, this is a problem, if they find any sort of problems, because I think I've got it pretty tight. And it's, like I said, it's so close to aspects of what the truth actually is that it would be almost impossible to get any of this wrong.
So would we remove ambiguity? You know, like bear and bear, for instance, for argument's sake. You know what I mean? Would we get rid of this stuff? You know, so what would we call a bear, or what would we call to bear a load? You know, how will we go about that process? You know, we got two things that everyone knows, and here's to bear a load.
It's really easy, and that is that if a certain word can't fit into our strict definition of the word definition, then we take it out of the dictionary and we put it in a different book called Subjective Abstract Concepts or something. We can decide on that later. The point is that by it not being easily definable, when people see it in a different book or a different category, the entry for that word, and they hear that word outside in real life, they'll be like, hold on, that word can't easily be defined. I need to ask more questions. I need to find out the context. I shouldn't assume what this word means just because someone says it. And the easiest way to do that is by recognizing what words can or can't be easily defined.
Yeah, so I'm just flicking through my head now, there and there. You know what I mean? I'm just coming up with different, like, it's very hard to just, going to be hard to remove or debate.
Sorry, you broke up there. I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying there and there is another two, it's their property or they're over there, It's going to be very hard to separate all these words out of the English language and decide which there should live. Should it be there over there, or should it be there?
Well,
it's their property. So which one should live in the category and which one should get removed and put over to here? Yeah, it's made there be some debate, and it'd be interesting to be a fly on the wall in these meetings.
Well,
we're losing him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it basically comes down to, if there's too much debate, then it can't be easily defined. And we should talk more about it, and we should discuss things more about it, and we should try to describe it in other words to avoid the confusion. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be about the word, but the words around that word. So the whole process of it will get us talking and discussing the meaning of words more, especially with our
complicated,
children, especially in terms of the legal aspects or the history of words as well. So what I'm imagining on this forum, I think the things that it will remedy will be complicated, but that'll be remedied through a natural process of us just talking to one another and being like, hey, I don't know what you're saying. Can you explain that again? So it's to encourage that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
I want to pull it.
It'll probably take it.
Can I just get you to, what is it? Is it www? The website?
Yeah. newstandarddictionary.com.
All right.
You going to get it in the comments, Kaz?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So this won't work. Yeah, this won't work without the community, and it won't work without the common law.
No, but this is what we are moving to, is these communities, and we have got people behind the scenes now getting ready. I don't know if you've introduced this to TAP. You know what I mean? Because again, the TAP, the Australia project, they're looking at introducing these whole, parallel economies. So this would be something that would be probably, be able to work well through that to get it out to all the communities, to get the feedback, to sort out where we are going with our language. And I definitely agree that it's something that definitely, I'd never looked at it, but it's definitely something that does need to be looked at, rectified for the simplicity of going forward, because there is too many loopholes in ambiguity in the English language.
Absolutely, and it's about recognizing those loopholes and the ambiguous. I can't even pronounce that word, but it's about recognizing that and knowing and being okay when we say to ourselves, "I don't know," or "I'm not sure," and I need to find out more. There's nothing wrong with that. So, yeah, it's a parallel dictionary. You can put it that way. It's a parallel dictionary,
and that's what people are building. They're building parallel economies. So a parallel dictionary is exactly what we do need to go with that economy, so that we all know straight off the bat what we're talking about, what we're expressing, what our well, we don't even want contracts. You know what I mean? We want to be able to verbally talk to people and make agreements like we used to do. We don't want to put pen to paper. When I look Fahad in the eye and tell him that if I can have them 2 chickens because I got a bit of a do on the weekend, you know what I mean? But, hey, I got heaps of veggies here, and next week I'm going to look after you with twice as many veggies as I should. Well, when me and Fahad shake hands on that, should be it. Deal done. He gives me the 2 chickens, I give him the veggies in the time allocated. That's so right. This is how we want to work as society, and this is how we want to do things.
Yeah.
And, to do that, we need to get a singular language that means the same thing. I agree.
Yeah, or at least work towards it. And it's actually really simple. It's just that through all the layers of confusion, we have to unravel all that confusion to get to the simple part of it. But if we just start talking about the meaning of words, if you go to any dictionary and look up the definition of the word person, and then look at the legal dictionaries, especially Black's Law Dictionary, and look up the word person, and it'll blow your mind. It's like, what is this? Like, then the whole, separation of the fictitious world and the real world, it's right there. It's in the dictionary, in the legal dictionary. It's hidden. It's hidden in this, 8,000-page dictionary, right? Which no one looks in. Well, the elites look in it, I guess. But
in the 1971,
you go back to the older Black's Law Dictionary, and it's a different definition of the word person. It's a more sort of simplified version, but it's still got the elements.
And they have hit all this stuff. You're on a pretty big delay at the moment, but that's the website there, folks. And they have hidden all this stuff, guys. Okay. It's just the way they've done it. All right. They've kept it all away from us. Okay. And Fahad's exactly right. This does need in this era that we're moving into, this is one thing that does need to be sorted out. You know what I mean? So that we can't be, fictitiously used anymore or corrupted by our words. A word has meaning. If you use it, well, this is what you represent with it, and yeah. So, I think it's a very interesting topic. It's something I'd never thought about, but something that obviously going forward, is something that needs to be done,
Thank you.
No, it's been interesting. Kaz, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really great project. Anyone out there who is fascinated with words or can contribute, I think you should go and sign up. It's one of those things that you can actually be part of history. You can actually be the breakthrough that we need at this point in time.
Yeah.
So great idea.
Yeah, and we need it in heaps of different areas, folks. Yeah, we need those breakthroughs in legal areas, linguistic areas like this, in our land management areas. We need it everywhere across the board. So, yeah, Fahad, hats off to you, mate. I think it's so what's the? Let's give us just an overwrap of what you've done. 10 years research. What's the main points? Maybe the main 3 points that stand out to you that would have meaning to the people out there of manipulation towards, us, being lied to or being manipulated, I suppose is the word, with this language change?
Well, we can say that we've been manipulated or lied to, but it takes two people to be manipulated: the person who's allowing themselves to be manipulated and not realizing it, and the other person that's doing it. And even if you go ahead and ignore the actual deception, you can look at just general innocent confusion as being a part, or misunderstandings as being a part of an overall problem as well. So the takeaway is that if a dictionary entry doesn't make sense to a child, if a child can't wrap their head around it, then what's the point? And a lot of dictionary entries are like that. So it's an opportunity that we can give responsibility to our children and make them a part of it, and say, and embolden them with the trust and the authority and the confidence to be able to forge and formulate their own meaning from words together as a community, so that they can have more confidence in the language they communicate with going into the future. And this is going to take like a generation at least to actually complete, because that's about how long
generation. It'd take generations, 2 or 3 generations, to actually walk this process in. Because we got a very confusing language. Okay, our language is very ambiguous, very confusing, and very stupid. So someone like yourself or whoever does take on this task in the future, you got quite a job on your hands. It's not a simple task.
Well, all of us are taking part of it, part in it right now by talking about it and by thinking about the meaning of various words. It's just that if we come together and have one end goal for it, and be like, okay, well, this is easy enough to do, and we're aware now that we can actually do it, and we can work towards one goal together, then, like I was saying, it doesn't matter whether you're sitting on the toilet or you're going to this rally or that rally, or whether you're voting for this person or that person. As long as we agree that we should minimize confusion, and we should be striving to communicate more clearly and more effectively, not just for us, but for our children and our children's children, then if we agree to that, then we can all work on something together. And we are working on it together. It's just that we need to sort of come to one point. Right now people are doing it in these different avenues, or under different umbrellas, or whatever you want to call it. But if we just come together like that, then you can still stay in all your different freedom movements or whatever, and vote for whoever you want, right? But you can still work on creating a new dictionary and talking about language and minimizing confusion. We should all be taking part in that, and we are. We just don't, we don't realize it as much as we should.
Yeah, and as you say, just us coming on here and actually exposing this topic, which is a crazy topic. Let's create a new dictionary, guys. Yeah, what a bonzer idea. Yeah, let's do that. The
idea came to me. The idea came to me like a year ago, and I was like, well, this could be a potential solution if we just redefine the definition of the word definition so it has more definition, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, no, that's too crazy. And I just wrote it off. I wrote some weird poem about it, right? Which is on the website anyway. And then like a couple of months ago, it clicked on me. It's like, no, we can do this. Like, we can actually do this. And then I researched a little bit more. It's like, do we need to change the definition of the word definition? And I looked it up and said, holy hell, like the current definitions out there aren't very good. And they're not following those definitions. And we can do it. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, let's put it out there. So we're putting it out there now, folks, for all you linguistic freaks or whatever you call yourself. I don't know what your name is out there in society, but anyone who's into language or into law, and because law is another thing where language needs to be, sorted out, because there's another process. Then you've got to make the language fit the law, because the law is all correct. So, man, what a task. But, hey, these things need to be done. Yeah, they need to be done. Yeah.
That's a part of it as well. And look, if we're communicating with words and language, then that's the only prerequisite. It's the only requirement you need to be able to get into this and take part in it. You don't have to be a linguist. You just have to communicate with words and have the desire to, want to minimize confusion and be on, and know what another person is saying. That's all. You don't have to be, some scholar or anything. That's exactly the point. Even our children can do it.
No, that's great, mate. It's a great idea, and this is what we like to get out there, different things, you know what I mean, and get exposure to them so people are talking about them. But definitely one thing that needs to be done, you know what I mean, as we, move through this process and get out the other end, however that looks, it doesn't really matter, because what it's going to be is unity and helping each other out community-wise. We feel that is what, is coming in the future days. So, yeah, great idea. Something's got to be done. So, Kazzy, you got anything to say just before we wrap it up? And
yeah, I just think it's really important that people get involved in this and we take ownership of it, because some really bad people have had ownership of the English language for far too long, and they've corrupted it, and they've done so on purpose so that it doesn't benefit us. If we take control of this situation and we design it, so restructure it so that it benefits us, the people, we the people, then I think it's exactly what's needed. So, I know that there are a lot of people that sit around and grizzle and whinge and, I can't do anything, I don't know. This is it. Guys, do you know the word okay? Let's go in and define it. Let's find out what we can do. What about the word thee? Why do we use it there? Okay, go and define it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And you can go to commonlaw.earth as well, the website, and you can look up your local common law assemblies there, and you can, if you want to, join them or find out more, you can, send an email to your local one there. I'm part of the one in Western Sydney, so our website is clawsassembly.com. That's CLAWS assembly.com. And we're helping people with get through their fines and go through the court process and that kind of stuff. We're having a lot of success with having fines, like massive fines, like major issue stuff, just dismissed because the courts just don't want to deal with us. So we're definitely paving that way by talking the right way and building confidence from within ourselves and authority to be able to control ourselves and not let others control us. So definitely look into common law as well, guys. It's vital to all this.
So are you using their language against them in their system to beat them? Yeah, is that what you're doing under common law? You're walking into their, you're swimming in their pool, but you're using their language against them. Is that how you're winning in court?
That's a little part of it, yeah. There's probably 2 or 3 different methods. So one of the main ones would be to write an affidavit, which is like I don't know all the terminology, so you'll have to forgive me if I get some of this wrong. But affidavit is essentially a statement of truth that you present to the court when you're going into court. So before you get into court, you present your statement of truth, which the way we're doing it, it's an undeniable statement of truth, which puts you outside the legal jurisdiction of the court process. So when you go into court, they can't deal with you.
Yeah.
Their only option, from what we're seeing, is to dismiss the case, because if they don't, then it reveals
they're scared.
Whatever.
Well, they perjure themselves and lie. One of the two.
Yeah. So that's one of the methods that we're employing, and the language that we use comes into it.
So, Fahad, could I ask you, how do you actually do that? So when you say that you put them in that position with your affidavit, so how do you actually, what structure of words do you use that creates that effect?
So she's.
Well, the main one that I'm seeing is to.
Oh, I've lost him again.
Am I still there, or did it lag?
Yeah, no, lagged.
Let me know.
Go.
We've lost him.
No, it's just the lag.
Is it better now?
You came back.
Keep talking.
Okay. You can hear me? All good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So one of the ways, or one of the statements of truth, basically asserts that you are, like you as an individual, are referred to as your name, but not in capitals, because in the legal world, for the most part, they refer to you in capitals, and that's the corporate version of you that they take advantage of. So if you assert in an affidavit to present to the court that you are not the capital version of you, then, well, most of their paperwork is dealing in capitals when it comes to the names.
Right.
So they can't rebut that affidavit because it's true. They know it. And then once you go into court, they have to unravel their own
bullshit. So they don't want
muddy legalities in order to. They want to get rid of you. They want to. They don't want you in the court, and they don't want to deal with your fine. And it's too much of a headache for them. And what I'm seeing is that they're dismissing the fines.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's we might get you to, because we've had a few different people on now with ways to beat. I know how to beat the courts, or what I got to do to actually beat the courts, and I'm waiting for my day. I missed one, unfortunately, because I was in Canberra, and but anyway, we're going to take that one back. But it would probably be interesting to get you back on your method of doing this, because everyone understands different things, Fahad, and some people will understand that. Some people understand a different method, but the more simple we can make it and the more people we can educate, the better it is. So, look, thanks for your input on language. So, as I said, something I never even looked at, you know what I mean? I didn't know what we were going to do about language when we got to wherever we're heading to. But, definitely a subject that needs to be looked at. Okay, so again, we'll be in contact, and we'll see if we can get you back on and just talk about how you guys are actually, because everyone wants to get everything they've got thrown out of court. You know what I mean? That's exactly what people want to do, and the more we do it, and the more we get to talk about that in public too, down the local shop. Oh yeah, well my court, mine got thrown out. When people are hearing this going, what do you mean? Like got thrown? Well, COVID doesn't. It's not real. They can't book you under it. So it's more generation of gossip too in local areas when people are getting off these things. So, it's a great thing, mate. Yep. All right, we'll finish it up there. So thanks, Fahad, for your time. Thanks, Kaza.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon, people. Thanks for, share this out. Let's get this page.
Just us talking more. Yep. Just us talking more makes a huge difference. And that's what they wanted to break up. They didn't want us meeting at our local.
Yeah, too true.
Thanks, guys.